Okay, guys, today we're going to continue with some more hand examples. Today these spots are going to be a bit more trickier because there are going to be more players involved, and we have prepared a couple of spots, and we're going to start with the first spot here with King 3 suited, just as information here up front. You will also see us using some Excel sheets, which we have also prepared for you, so you can also use them, put in the numbers, and I highly advise you to use that Excel sheet, take it out right now, and do it simultaneously while we are presenting you how it is supposed to be, or how is it supposed to analyze or to be analyzed, so that you also have some certain training effects and you know how it's going to get done. Also, there will be different Excel sheets. So the thing is that, of course, in bounty tournaments, if there are multiple players involved, we need to use different formulas and different equations than we need for, let's say, if we just have a race call spot. It's a little bit more stuff or a little bit more material, but it is needed. It's because of the complexity in bounty tournaments. So that is the only way you can really analyze it properly. Right, Nico, do you
Yeah,
have something you want to share, or just jump right into it?
no, we can jump right into it. And when we are facing the Excel sheet calculation, then we can talk about where it might be different and where you actually have to sometimes make your own calculations, but we can show you how you can do the calculations. And yeah, let's just hop in the spot. So this is King 3 suited at the cutoff, and we are open raising, and the button jams. And the question is if we can call, if this is a good open raise, and how good the call might be if we are calling. This is a Bounty Builder 44 tournament. Here's the snipped out information. Whoops, here's the snipped out information. So 1,884 players are left out of the 3,866 players which started the tournament. We need this information, if you remember, to get the bounty price pool remaining. This is a
Yep,
number which
very
we will
important.
need for the start bounty, and we have actually restructured the sheet a bit. So if you now look in the charts sheet, it will look like this.
Yes. The previous video was different, and we're also gonna it depends on the feedback. So we just, I mean, this is the beginning of the journey in becoming better with bounty tournaments, and this was also something new for us. So along the way, we might also adjust this Excel sheet depending on your feedback, where you guys might give us some input about the usability, and then we might adjust and make it easier for you, and might fix something. So this point in time, when you watch it right now, it might look also a little bit different, but it will not look completely different, so that you're not going to lose your intuition. You get completely lost and you have no idea where to put in the numbers or where to extract the result, so you can put it into the equation and the formulas in order to find out the result.
Right, so we will show this in this video, right? How to use
Yeah, exactly.
everything, and if you got questions, of course, ask the questions, and if there are problems with the cheats, of course, we can adjust formula as usage of formulas and so on. So again, remember we had 1,884 players. We just shortly calculate how much percentage of the field is left, 3866. So around about 48.7% of the field is left. And now we have this field size and percentage slide inside of our Excel sheet. So we just can go now down to 48.5%, roundabout we were here, right? So 36.75% of a starting stack is worth one start bounty.
So just to make it clear for you guys, if we just found out there are roughly 50%, so 48.5% of the players remaining, which means there is, or you need to calculate 36, or to add, let's say, to add 36.75% of the chips of your starting stack, right? This is here the way we're doing it, just to recap a little bit the theory and to keep it very practical.
Right, we're calculating the bounty value in chips.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
and this is the percentage of a starting stack. So if the starting stack was 5K, then now start bounty would be worth around about 1,800 chips. Just calculate it in the head, maybe it's a bit more or less. And now we have created a second Excel sheet. I will put this here. And remember, our situation was that we have our king 3 suited open raise and a player rejams. He's not sitting in the blinds. And we want to know how good our call will be with king 3 suited, or how much the minimum equity should be so that we can call, and if king 3 suited fulfills this condition, that it has more than the minimum equity. And yeah, we now can just use a new Excel sheet.
What I like to do in these spots, sorry to interrupt you, is maybe you just pause for a second and you guys think about what would you do. What was his bounty? I think it was just a starting bounty, right?
No, it was 1.5 times the starting bounty.
1 point. So he already won 1 bounty.
Right.
So he has.
You can
exactly.
You can win $15 in this spot, and it was a bounty builder 44, so he did already won 1 bounty from a player.
So it is a bounty builder 44, which has a starting bounty of
$10.
$10. So he won already 1 bounty from another player, right? So just to recap, the starting, and you really have to distinguish between what is PokerStars displaying next to the name, which in that instance would be $10, right? But remember, the starting bounty is $20, but $10 is displayed next to his screen name, and we can win those $10. So this player already knocked out 1 player. So he won $5 and $5. He won $10. Right. Yes, exactly. Sorry, and that's why $5 is going on his head, and that's why it's displaying $15. So then we can win those $15. So he has 1.5 starting bounties, and we can win those $15. And now we continue with the Excel sheet.
Okay. So yeah, we just take now all the information we have at the table. So remember, we actually have the first number which we use. I can show you the Excel sheet. So the Excel sheet would look like this. You choose your situation, and in our situation, we face a rejam out of a non-blind position. So we are open raising and someone jams, and we want to know what are the resulting odds and what is the resulting needed minimum equity. And the start stack in a bounty builder 44 is 5,000, and we are at 250, 125.
Maybe can you mark this field red?
Which one?
So the 5,000, just for, I don't know, I like to do that. So I know, okay, this is an information you need from the lobby. This is something you need to find out. Either you look it up now in the lobby or you just keep it in your mind. I mean, everything else we can see here in the replayer. And also, okay, of course, the starting bounty that, or the amount of chips we take from the starting bounty. Okay, we have the antes, which are...
So there are 342 inside of the point. Just shortly calculate this.
You can't do it in your head? That's so
38.
disappointing.
Whoops. Okay, so we have 38. And
we're gonna cut it out.
And we have 9 players at the table, and we already so those are the informations which you take from the hand. Then you did snip out the situation, so you know how much players were left in the field, and then you go to your first chart and take this number out. So we need the start bounty and percent start stack value, which is in this chart. We already have taken out this, so 36.75%.
Can you also mark that red, please?
Okay.
So this is also an information you need from the lobby.
Okay, and now we take his regen size and chips, so 3,937.
Basically always the effective stack size, right?
Actually, I have written this sheet now as it's always calculated without the so you always put the chip stack in without the blind, but it's stated here. So for example, if you're facing a rejam of the out of the big blind, right? Then you put
Okay.
in the whole stack, and I just will subtract the big blind value out of the offset
Okay.
calculation, so I don't double this. Okay,
So
so
yeah, that's very
just
important, the bottom,
it's
right?
very so make it more simple, right? So just look
Okay.
at the regem, the total stack size which he's rejamming, and type this in, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
calculate something
So
out
you
of
have different tables, as you can see. Can you go back to the Excel sheet, please?
yes.
You see on the bottom, if you have a rejam out of the big blind, we take this one. But we have a non-blind position situation, so we take exactly, click on, yeah, this one. So make sure you use the proper table according to the situation.
Right. And yeah, the last information which you need is your open race, and the open
Yeah.
race was 537. So we go back and 537, and we get a resulting odds of 2.33, or a minimum equity which would be round about 30%. Okay,
Yeah.
so every combination which we want to call in this situation should have 30% versus the range of our opponent to be profitable to call.
Yeah.
And yeah, now let's look maybe at the range which jams. So we have talked about a bit about this yeah, certain spot, and this is the situation. So everyone has folded, and we are sitting in a position that we are open raising, and in this case, the player has the ability to flat call or to three bet. Sorry, this one here. So
This
he
is
has
the
the
right one.
right.
Yes,
So
exactly.
we are opening something, and the player Naroka has the ability either to flat or to three bet. Also, the blinds have the ability to flat and to three bet. And yeah, maybe shortly talk about why you expect him to free bet a range like this.
It should be, of course, a little bit wider than a normal freeze out because he is aware that first we cover him, so we will call it off lighter. But also our opening range is going to be wider, and also our calling range is going to be wider. So a hand like ace eight off or queen nine or king nine. I don't really like to rejam here with queen nine suited, to be honest. But just as an outlier, just some sort of randomness we include here in order to make it a bit more realistic. But I think I wouldn't say it's a perfect range, but I think it's something that population is going to rejam on average in this spot. It's not about hitting the perfect numbers here. It's just about being somewhat realistic, and whether it's going to be 13.2 or 17.5%, it's not going to make such a huge difference. And given the stack size, what was like 15 bigs, I think he will sometimes flat some hands on the button. Again, he will be aware that we are probably, or a somewhat reasonable opponent should be aware that we are going to open race much wider than the freeze-out tournament. Hence, he should call some hands, even though he has just 50 bigs, but who is saying that we're not allowed or not entitled to flat call with 50 big blinds? We can definitely do that because there are certain hands that are just extremely strong in terms of equity against our opening range. So a hand like Jack 10 suited that might not be a rejam, a proper rejam, I would flat all day long here, or King Jack off if we're not opt to rejam this hand. So we gave him some flat calls here, as you can see. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's
I think also that's an okay flatting range because he's very short, and he can, if you again remember the hand, you cannot really expect if he flats here that his flat is going through a lot of the times, because the small blind can also three bet, and the big blind, which is also short, can in this scenario jam a lot. So he shouldn't really flat much here, and this is why we have also chosen this kind of more or less very short range which you can flat.
but I think it's pretty decent. I think it can be a very good strategy. I think it's a very good strategy against a somewhat competent opponent that is aware of how a bounty mechanism works in these situations.
Okay, so we facing a 3-bet from him, and this is the range we should call. And in this case, if we are just calculating with the Hold'em resources calculator, we have a clear fold with King 3 suited, right?
Yeah.
And now we are taking his range, which he's 3-betting. So this is again his 3-betting range, and we just copy this again using Aqualab to get the minimum combinations for our calling range. Does it look accurate? No, it doesn't.
No, I think it is.
No, it's missing all the pairs.
Ah,
Again, sometimes just
they just make
a bit fucked up with the comatose. I don't know why. Okay. So hopefully now it works. Yes. And we had calculated, again, remember, we had calculated that we need a minimum equity of around about 30% with this range if we are considering his bounty value. And now we can just calculate if we had 30% equity, and now we can call this range.
Can you maybe just show where you just clicked to find that calculation button? So you clicked on that green arrow.
Sure, I clicked on this arrow, and
And then
in
hand
English it should
range
be hand
calculator.
range calculator, right? And
Yeah.
then you're having a range which you are facing, and you are typing in your minimum equity, and then you just say, okay, calculate the hand range. And this is the hand range which you will get. Then you can say, okay, take this to the main window, and then you get your calling range here. And in this case, King 3 suited is a clear call. So if we are taking King 3 suited with this range, just look how big the equity is. We have 34.6% equity versus this range, and we only needed 30%, so this is a clear call.
Yeah.
So this was the King 3 suited hand, and yeah, we wanted to add another information. If you're using Hold'em resources calculator, you can see that we did choose to give all the players a calling and a 3-betting range in this spot to get the information or crossover information if King 3 suited is a good open race versus the players, right? In this case, our range estimation, King 3 suited is a good open race, but you can also use the program and just say, okay, we are open raising and our opponents are always 3-betting. This is how most of the players are tending to use this program if they are facing this exact situation, right? So we open raise some jams, and they usually forget that he actually should be able to flat, and the blinds should be able to flat if he's flatting, and so on and so on. And this will actually make a huge difference in the open race EV of your combinations. And maybe Ben, you can talk about this a bit.
This would be if you really just copy paste the hand, you let the blinds, button, small blind, big blind just go all in. So button standard 20% rejamming range. We are very deep around 40, 50 bigs with the small blind. So we just, to make it a bit more realistic, put it down to 7%. And the big blind is going to rejam around 25%. So, and you can see that we can open raise any two cards. Extremely profitable. But we haven't included any option for the players in the blinds or in the button to flat call, which we did previously. Can you go back to?
Sure.
And we did it here, and you can see that now the equity realization, the EVs of every single hand is dropping, and also our range becomes tighter. Yet we can still open raise very wide. Why? Simply because the button is supposed to defend less. And we also can call it off much wider against the button. That's why in these spots, you can, if you cover pretty much anybody left to act, you can open raise much wider. And here, instead of maybe King 5 suited, any suited king. You have to keep in mind that, and we're not going to dive deeper here in equity realization, I'm just going to scratch the surface here, is you see that it, for example, values a hand like Jack 7 off over 6-7 suited, simply because it only uses raw equity. Of course, Jack 7 off has a much higher equity against a big blind defense range, also against the small blind range. but the playability is much poorer than 7-6 suited. But the equity realization, so Hold'em Racer's calculator basically says we're going to realize 100% of our equity with Jack 7 off and 100% with our equity with 7-6 suited. The equity realization is completely different though. For a hand like Jack 7 off or Queen 5 off, it's much lower than those suited connectors. So actually we should definitely favor a hand like 6-5 suited, 7-6 suited over Jack 7 off or Queen 7 off. So you have a good orientation here so that you can probably open 40 to 50% of hands, but you should definitely omit hands like Queen Deuce off to Queen 7 off, Jack 7 off, and then instead open some of these suited connectors, probably opening around 40% in this spot. And always consider that you should not just blindly copy paste the hand history and then run the calculation and then see, oh, well, I can open, and as you've seen in hand 3, yeah, we can open raise 100% of hands, which is, of course, not accurate because nobody, button small blind nor big blind, have the option to flat call against our raise. So it's a bit tedious, but we also did it previously. It takes you 10 to 15 minutes, but you have to give every single player a rejamming range. And we should have actually made it a little bit more accurate by also giving the small blind a non-all-in 3-betting range, which we didn't here. But it's not going to make such a huge difference. So just as you see, we're supposed to open raise quite wide. Also for the big blind, his rejamming range is also much tighter than a normal freeze out.
Right. Okay. So yeah, a very good point. Just maybe to add why Hold'em Resources Calculator, you are always realizing your equity. It's just checking down. So you will see this in a lot of spots where you just, if you take a hand and you just say calculate and you look at the UTG opening range, then you will see that Hold'em Resources Calculator favors, for example, the offsuit aces before a hand like King 9 suited. And this is just because if you even allow players to flat call a hand like ace high, if you always take this down, a hand like ace high will win more often than a hand like king high. So Hold'em Resources Calculator just favors those ace high combinations. Besides, a hand like ace-3 offsuit has a way lower, as Ben said, way lower equity realization compared to king 9 suited. And this is why you should open king 9 suited and fold ace-3 offsuit, for example. So yeah, don't fall in this trap, which you will maybe get into in Hold'em Resources Calculator. Don't take every calculated result for granted that this is the optimal ingenious decision. You should always question if this is really senseful, and yeah, actually makes a lot of sense what the program gives you as a result. So don't just follow it blindly, right? This is what we wanted to say. Yeah, if you like to, we hop into the next part.
Yeah, so just to wrap it up, we're basically calling every single hand we're open raising here.
Right.
So if we face a 15 big blind rejam here in that particular situation, cut off a button and we cover him and he has a 1.5 starting bounty, 1.5 starting bounties, we are supposed to call 100% of hands. By the way, it helps me if you don't know if you have no idea how to find out what is the amount of bounties Allin has on PokerStars. If it displays $15, right? Just multiply it by 2, it's $30. The starting bounty is $20. So then you see, okay, it's 1.5 times of 20. So that's the way you can figure out what his actual bounty is. So if it would be 40, it would be 2 times the bounty. And that's important too, because we have, can you open the Excel sheet? Because this is an important number as well. Yep. Here, you put it in here, number of start bounties of rejamming player. In that instance, it was 1.5.
Okay, we should also put this red because this is another information which you don't get out of hand. Okay,
yeah, exactly. And you can also play around. Let's maybe go down. Can you put it to 1? What would be our minimum equity if he just has 1 bounty? Then you see now it gets to 32.6, so it automatically adjusts the number, and then we might slightly fold. But that's you can also how you can play around, right? If you see, well, he only has 1 bounty, so I have to fold my hand whatever spot you're analyzing, and then you can just give him 1.5. 2 bounties, 3, and really see how the impact of bounties can be. I mean, here in our spot, we have an equity difference of 10%. In a normal freeze out, we need 40. And this guy has just 1.5 starting bounties. And yet we need 10% less equity. I mean, that's crazy. So those are the spots where you have to make really sick adjustments. Okay, let's go to the next spot.
Okay, let's go to the next spot. The next spot is out of Bounty Builder 500. And we are facing a rejam out of the big blind. And yeah, usually I think it's pretty clear that we would fold king queen off, but if you like to, we can show this in the Hold'em resources calculator just shortly, if you like to.
Yeah, I mean, if you already have prepared it, so.
Sure. So this would be your, I estimated this as your opening range.
It's quite loose. I would fold queen jack. I mean, okay, depends on how many players I cover, but we just assume it's a freeze out, so that I wouldn't open and like queen jack off. I wouldn't open 8-7 suited with that stack size.
Okay.
Probably also fold sixes.
Okay.
I have a rather tight approach in these spots. Yeah, I think 15-16% is fine.
15-16%?
We can leave that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we end up with 16%. Okay. Let's just shortly recalculate this. And we are facing a rejam out of the big blind. What would you expect that he rejams?
Yeah, any pair. Something like ace-10 suited, ace-jack off and better, king-queen suited, some combos of king-jack suited and king-queen off. He's a really good player, but I would not make a calculation here against a good opponent. I would, because I think it's just more valuable for students that are watching the course here, is we kind of just use our population reads. So I think, yeah, queen jack suited is also more often just flatted. Yeah, 10%. It's still on the loose side, but I think we can go with that.
Okay. Yeah, even in this scenario, is king queen offset is a pretty clear fold, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now again, we are using our Excel sheet and just calculate the minimum defend equity. So we just use the numbers again. Let me give you the snipped out information from the lobby at this point in the tournament. So we had, why can't I zoom? Okay, so we had 193 players out of 335 players remaining, which would be around about 55%, something like this. Okay, 57%, so 57.6%. And in this situation, we are facing a rejam out of the big blind. So in our sheet, we are going now to the slide facing a rejam out of the big blind. Okay, let's
And
go.
you also have to check the other Excel sheet where we find the.
Sure, we are doing this now, right?
Okay,
So,
all right, good.
So we are just starting with our snipped out photo. We have a start stake of 25,000, so we write in 25,000. And
can you mark it red again? So
okay. And we did say we have 57.6% left. So now we are getting the other sheet, and we go to 5%, and we see okay we have.
Is it for the right table because just it has less than 3 or less than 400 players?
That's actually for field size, which should be 200 or bigger. So for every field size, those numbers are accurate. You have to keep in mind that if you are looking at a small amount of numbers of players which are remaining in the field, so consider a field which has 5,000 players, right, and you have 1% or 0.5% left, and you have still 25 players left. And if you want to know then how much of the bounty prize pool will be left, like at 10 players or at 5 players, this will differ very much. But if you're looking at big field sizes and just calculate it down to like 1% of the field, the numbers will be very close to each other for 1K field, 2K field, 3K field, and even a field which has like 300, 400, 500 players. Those numbers aren't changing a lot. So I try to just simplify it in one slide. If you're really interested in all the concrete numbers, you can still look them up inside of those other 2 slides. But
I know there's some guys out there that are, really curious about that. So in case you're interested in really digging deep, like really, really deep, and distinguish between 300 players and top 1,200 players, there are these attached cheats you can use, in order to find it out.
Just to simplify it for your own studying,
Yeah.
you can just usually use this tabular. Note that if you're having a way smaller field, so for 100 players or for 50 players, the calculation is getting very dicey. There's a lot of variance in every point, and those points are not differing very much then. And you have to have a field size which is somehow a bit more bigger, right? This whole calculation is not for a sit and go. In a sit and go, you would actually calculate this very differently, right? You would always consider ICM and so on and so on. So you won't do this calculation. You would do a different calculation. And again, we had 57.6% left, I think. So we were around about here. So we just take this number, and that was 36.03%, and put them inside of our calculation. So 36.03. Okay. Now we are looking at the hand, and just from the start, we have 600, 1,200, and Ben, calculate this in the head. 1,080 divided by 9.
Sorry, I just have to open the door. I'm gonna be back in a minute.
Okay. That's a very good spot. Yeah, okay. So you just put in the numbers, and I just shortly calculated here. So it's 120 anti.
You're the math genius. You're supposed to be able to do that.
No problem, mate. Then you have 9 players at the table, and now we put in his regem size, but you have to include the big blind. So don't subtract the big blind from his regem, just take the whole amount which he jams. So this is 22,747. 22,747. And this player had also 1.5 times the star bounty. We have it here. So this is the player I'm sound, which we are facing the all-in off, and he has already won 1 bounty. If you multiply this by 2, you will end up at 350. So he had already won 1 bounty.
Yeah.
375. 375. Sorry. Yeah, pretty.
Yeah, you start with 250, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so we had 1.5 times the start bounty, and now we just put in our open race, and our open race is 2,724. 2474, I can't really remember. Doesn't really matter. Okay, and our resulting minimum equity is now 33%. And yeah, if we are now taking his regening range again, so we just copy the range. So actually, you don't have to copy the range. It's just a suited as now.
Around 10%.
So we take this.
I mean, you can even dive deeper and say, okay, he's flatting aces, kings to a certain amount of the time, but it's not going to be such a
right. And now we put in a 33%, and we are now just, let's say, interested.
I feel so bad. Man. How can I fold king queen off?
You can see which range you can call. We are not opening this range, right? But we can actually see how many combinations have the minimum equity. And now
in case you misclicked open raise 8-7 off, right? Can also happen. You never know. In case you opened 8-7 off, you misclicked. You have to call it off.
Yeah, you have to actually call
almost gamble.
Yeah, so
wow, it's so
whoops.
sick. So sick.
Yeah, you have called just a mistake in the hand history.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a pretty clear call.
Can you show the difference between the equity we need in a normal freeze out and in this situation here?
Sure.
Wow, again 10%. That's so sick. Oh, the odds are shifting so heavily.
Yeah, and that's you can actually see here why we are folding in a usual freeze out. You would fold king queen offsuit, right? With this range, we don't have the equity, and when you are having the bounty value calculated, then you are calling this. So you
Yeah.
are way better than the needed equity with a king queen offsuit. Yeah. So this is another spot where you're just facing a rejam, and yeah, we made this for the usage of this Excel sheet. Those are very common spots, right? So the
Yeah.
most of the spots are just open raise, someone rejams, or someone opens, and we think about if we want to rejam, and so on. So those are the standard spots. Always, if you have a spot where it's getting more complicated, like an open raise, a call, we are three betting, someone is four betting. You cannot simplify this really in an Excel sheet. So in this case, you will have to do your calculations by
Yeah.
hand again. Just using the numbers out of the charts, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, the way to calculate it, you actually have to do this by hand. And we have prepared another example where you actually have to do this by hand and not. It's not super simple,
Can,
simplifiable.
can you just also mark it right here, the starting bounty and the numbers? So just for simplicity and simplicity for completeness. Okay, so keep in mind, guys, you need to know those three numbers. If you have a very interesting spot, and I know due to all the tables you might have open and you have a lot of spots going on, and you forget to make a screenshot of the lobby, and then after the session you're like, fuck, I forgot to make it. You can always find out what is the start stack of the bounty builder 200 or whatever. But it's going to be hard to find out how many players were left, what was the starting. But you can still simulate. You can make assumptions. You say, okay, well, it was like 700 players left out of 1,200, and you can make the same calculation for 500 left or 800 left. It doesn't actually matter. And then you can also play around with the starting bounty. So even though you have forgotten to make a screenshot of the lobby, you can, and also the table. So, or you write it down. What was the player? I just write it down and like, okay, the hand I want to analyze, king, queen off, starting bounty 1.5. And then I know it for my post analysis, what number of starting bounties the player had.